Today, we're going to have a look at Riftstorm and what I learned playing the alpha pre-test 2 of the game. We're going to look at the gameplay, the heroes, the weaponry, all that jazz. So it's a more in-depth version after our first ever video of Riftstorm. So let's get into today's madness and today's video. Hello, smash a like, comment and subscribe for more daily videos with me and MrSneakyy, and we're covering Riftstorm today. And firstly, we're gonna go over the map and gameplay side of stuff because we have already showcased a little brief introduction of the map, and it has raised a few eyebrows on how this thing works. So when we look into the actual map design of this whole game, it's pretty simple. You have 3 different threat levels. You have threat level 1, threat level 2, and threat level 3. And with those 3 different threat levels, what you're going to be able to do is basically go up in difficulty, and each difficulty is going to give you better gear and rewards and different weapons when you progress through. So when we look at the very first map in threat level 1, what you're going to be able to notice is some very easy to understand mechanics. This is kind of getting you used to what you're going to be doing in threat level 2 and threat level 3. So you can have a variety of missions on screen, and you can see there is a variety of numbers with this weird looking star, and that star is a representation of the CP, or the combat power of your character required to be able to join it. And each of one of these different areas have its own loot pool, as you've been seeing in the background as we've been going through map to map, and it has its own different, obviously, requirements and even the way the game mode is played. Because if we look at Incheon, which is the 150 compared to Fortaleza, which is 150, the Incheon one is more of a kind of one room, survive as long as you can. But when you go into the fort mission, which is 150, it is more of a sort of, you know, actual roguelike where you're going room to clear it out, which I find is very intriguing that it gives you both styles of gameplay already in an introduction. So once you've actually done this and you have progressed through, you will go to Chicago, Toronto, Islamabad, and Paris is your final destination. And you notice this is red. And the way this is being read, or showcased to be read, is so you know this is the end mission, and this is how you progress from threat level 1 all the way to threat level 2. And this is how the game is basically mapped out for you. And if we look into the threat level 2 map, you'll see it's the exact same setup, but instead we're going to get access to 2 red maps, and one of them is Puerto Rico, which is going to again progress you to threat level 3. But then you have Site 19, and this is one of the cooler flaws or missions in the game, where you have a competitive global leaderboard, and if you can obviously clear a high floor with a really fast time, guess what, you're going to be in the top 100 or top 50 or even top 10, who knows, and you can obviously be in the glory rankings for that. But again, this is just kind of a little more fun competitive mode. You might hit this more and more as you get stronger and stronger and you figure out more of the game, which I find is a really cool gimmick of it. And then again, when you're going to threat level 3 at the moment in the alpha only has 3 missions, with Georgia being the final destination, where we get to fight Adam, which was a really cool mission, as you guys have seen through the gameplay of this. And with threat level 3 though, as you can see, there's not that many missions, so I am assuming in the future they might be bringing out more missions here, right? There's quite a lot of space up in Russia, even in like Australia, down in South America, and even in, if you want to choose Greenland, why not go into Greenland and Iceland up at the top, right? So there's plenty of spaces for you guys to put missions here, and this is kind of what I'm hoping for, right? And this is just the first insight of the map gameplay side of what I have been able to see in Alpha 2, right? And you can see there's a lot of missions, there's a lot of gameplay stuff you can actually do, which is solo or multiplayer at your choice, which is great. And then the beautiful thing is they might bring out threat level 4 or threat level 5, and if they do, it just means they expand obviously the amount of missions, and you can go to different locations and obviously showcase different maps and styles, which I think is a really cool gameplay, you know, future hope for Riftstorm. So let's go into the next side, which is actually going to go into more of the heroes, because we've gone and covered basically all of the map So let's go over other heroes, and that's going to help you guys understand which of one of the 4 basic heroes you can start with is one of your favorites. The first operative we're going to be looking at is Starling. This is going to be the tutorial operative that you get to play with, and she's honestly a fantastic beginner operative. She's not too difficult. I would rate her around 3 out of 5, and late game I'd definitely give her a 5 out of 5 on viability. She's a very great hero, and the reason because of this is her 3 active skills and her 3 passive skills, that combination in together. So her first basic ability is called the Pepper Bomb. This throws a grenade, explodes 3 times, each dealing 250% of an AoE damage, and more importantly, staggering enemies for 1.1 second. That stagger is a nice CC effect, allowing you to maybe reload and obviously shoot down those enemies depending on what weapon you are using. But then her next 2 abilities work together fantastically. So her next basic ability is called the Homing Beacon or Manic Mayhem. This instantly refills all of your ammo. But when you do that, it increases all of your weapon damage by 100%, meaning it doubles your current weapon damage output, and all of your bullets become homing, which is a very, very powerful feature, but the weapon spread is increased by 250%. And this is honestly an effect you don't really need to worry about because all of your bullets are homing. And as long as you're aiming in the general direction, your bullets will honestly hit those enemies because of the homing direction. And her ultimate ability, which is what's fantastic and very self-explanatory, is the fact that you get infinite ammo for 5 seconds. So a nice little tip and trick here to break the video up is you can actually combine Trigger Happy with Manic Mayhem, because Manic Mayhem states until the next reload, weapon damage is increased by 100%. So for an argument or a hypothetical game scenario, you could be running an assault rifle or a submachine gun with like 200 bullets. Let this Manic Mayhem trigger, get you 200 bullets, start firing, and once you get down to like your last 10 bullets, all you've got to do, guess what? Press Trigger Happy and you've got 5 more seconds of infinite ammo, allowing you to have infinite weapon damage by 100% and gain that homing. Really, really good feature, a really beginner friendly combo, and it's so easy to pull off. So when we go into her actual 3 passive abilities, she increases the magazine size of all equipped weapons by 35%, nicely allowing beginners to shoot more bullets and not have to worry about reloading as much in this game. And then when it comes into the passives of her second and third, this is where a lot of this comes together. So shooting 20 projectiles without reloading grants a momentum stack, and each stack increases all damage dealt by 20% with a maximum of 3 stacks. Nice and easy. So if you've got a very large mag, guess what? You're going to be firing 20 projectiles plus, and you're going to be gaining, guess what? 20%, 40%, 60% damage for that remainder. And the beautiful thing is, once you've actually gone and you reload and you lose these stacks, it's not all doom and gloom, guys, because you get over prepared. So when reloading, each momentum stack you've now gained grants 30% extra ammo over the magazine cap. I love it, love it. And you do get to see this very easily in game, where you see sometimes your shotgun or something has 18 bullets out of 10 and you're wondering, how have I just gained 18 bullets? And it's all because of over prepared. So nice simple hero overview for Starling. So let's go into the next one, which is going to be Hertz. So Hertz is easily one of the most beginner-friendly and most recommended hero that I would actually give to all players that are looking to play Riftstorm, because Hertz as an operative actually does everything you need to get going and you're not worried about any sort of penalties. And what I mean by this is when we look at his actives and his passives that combine together. So his first ever active, which you will fall in love with, is crowd surfing. You spend a charge, you leap into a target direction or location, shall I say, and you deal 700% damage, guys. And this is increased by 15% for every skill or life that you've acquired generated from those stones when you're clearing each floor. So this actually gets stronger and stronger over time, which is very good. And on top of this, once you land, you will briefly stun enemies and gain invulnerability for 0.75 seconds, so just under 1 second when you land. So it's very safe. You're not going to feel like when you drop into, 20 billion enemies, if none of them have died, guess what? It's okay. You can run out there for at least the quick second you've got and dodge a roll and be safe, right? So I kind of love this, but you will notice when you see gameplay, he's a nuke, boys. It is a nuke. So one of the biggest things you'll notice with Hertz when you're playing with him, this is going to be the bread and butter. You will be using this the most in your kit, and you'll notice why when we look into his passives as well as his next active skill, which is called Caustic Rift. And Caustic Rift at first doesn't seem too much, but it's when you start involving his passives on top. So Caustic Rift says you play a disruptive tune, creating an aura that is a 5% AoE damage, and it inflicts a slow to this target of the duration of this skill. And this is very simple. Not much damage comes out of this, but you're inflicting a slow buff. And when we look at his passives, anytime you are able to inflict a slow, you will trigger his passive Degen Dissonance. And Dissonance basically says hitting enemies infected with slow grants you Fury, and Fury increases all damage by 0.8% and reduces all damage taken by 1%. So you get more damage and you reduce all the damage you take. It's in a phenomenal skill that combines with that AoE slow. And on top of this, which we will talk about because this is his final passive skill, which we will go over, which combos with it all, is drop tuning. So while that AoE is going and you're hitting those targets and getting them fury stacks to get more damage and reduce the damage taken, you have a 5% chance to get your main ability, the crowd surf, and slam down onto your enemies again. So it's a really good combination of how your Q and E work perfectly in harmony to keep that slam in up time. And it's really, really good gameplay. But when he comes into a co-op mode, his actual ultimate ability is one that is very, very good. Because what this allows you to do is taunt all the enemies on that stage. And when you taunt all of those, you will gain an invulnerability for 3 seconds. And that's great. 3 seconds of perfect no-take damage. You get all the aggro from everyone. And again, your two teammates could quickly just clean up all of the arena if they needed to. So I really do like this skill. It's a very good skill and very easy to understand skill as well for all beginners playing solo or even in a multiplayer squad. So when we go to its final actual passive that we didn't discuss, it's a very good one called Shredded Force. So whenever you're going to take a fatal hit, so you could be on like 200 HP and you're about to die from taking 210 damage, you will reduce that damage to 1, meaning your HP becomes 1, you will not die, and you will gain an invulnerability shield for 5 seconds. So you can basically cheat death for 5 seconds in an entire run, but you can only do this once per mission. So just remember that. It's not something you can abuse every single time. So if it goes, you need to play a little bit more safer. So that is Hertz. He's a very good tank, very good hero, very beginner friendly for Riftstorm. So let's go into the next 2 characters, which are a little bit more challenging and a little bit more advanced and a little bit more harder for you players. The next operative we've got to talk about on Riftstorm is my personal favourite, the one I put the most hours into, is Code Icarus. He is the sniper operative of the game, and his active abilities are very, very powerful because you get Sky Fury as your basic ability, and you deploy a drone that is a maximum of 2 drones that can be simultaneously deployed and fighting by your side. That deals 25% of the operative's attack for 30 seconds. It is so powerful, this, because you will basically allow yourself to have some sniper rifles or some really cool skills, and your big drones are going to be hitting for truck tons of damage. So I really do enjoy this kind of supportive skill. Your next ability is going to be named the one and only Rocket Barrage. It changes all of the deployed drones into rocket launcher AoE drones. You've heard it. For 6 seconds only though, and it is a very good skill for 6 seconds. When you're trying to like group up all of the maybe trash mobs, you can simply just now activate Rocket Barrage and very quickly clear all of them with your weapon and your AoE of your drones, so you don't have to waste as much ammo and honestly clear everything in one blast. And if that wasn't the case and there's even more enemies and you need to get out of that situation very fast, your ultimate is Skyburst, and you explode all deployed drones, and that is the correct number you're seeing there, dealing over 12,000% damage to their surroundings and enemies with the mark stack, receiving extra hits per stack. And I'll explain what the mark is in a moment. So very powerful. You basically get to stealth destruct all of those drones, detonate a nuke, and kill them all. So now let's go into your passives as a Icarus player, because they are very easy and very fundamental to this hero. Because your very basic one is Tumbles. You increase the charge rate of all charging weapons by plus 35%. This means all sniper rifles and even some rocket launchers that require a charge up timer or have a faster charge up with Icarus, and you do get viability with certain builds and weapons because of that versus other heroes. And I like that, and the different, you know, characterization between them all. The next passive we get is pretty simple, Doppelganger. When deploying a drone, every effect, that's a non-aura skill that we've gained from our life funds is acquired onto the drone. Meaning if you've gained any sort of critical damage by 50%, increase the crit by 10%, your attacks bounce, your attacks execute, all of your drones will gain those style of effects. But if you have a effect which is a corrosive aura, that will not work. So just remember that. It's a very good confusion on the players, and I don't want you guys to get confused with a different character that we're soon gonna cover. But his final ability and passive, and this is what will make it all come together, is when you fully charge any sort of attack, you will inflict a mark. And with that mark, it will inflict a 10-second debuff onto the target, allowing all of your drones to also focus fire that specific target. So if you're going against a boss, you're going to do some super high single target DPS. As well, if you've got a bunch of marks onto the boss, again, if you trigger the nuke, you're going to double and do an additional attack per mark that is on the target. So just remember, this is a very insanely hard agent to play, very complicated, but it has a very high risk, high reward play style. So that is Code Icarus in a nutshell. Now let's go into the final hero that we've got to cover. The final hero is Spraybot, and he is a fantastic hero and a more of a defensive style hero, and he's a little bit harder, but I could maybe recommend this again to newer players because of how defensive his kit is. So when we look at his actual active abilities, the first one we're going to talk about is Ace Deployment. And Ace Deployment is a turret that you are able to deploy, dealing 60% of your attack as an AoE damage. You can actually have up to 3 of these turrets out, so you can play a very defensive, hold the line style gameplay with this. And it goes into his second actual basic ability, which is Electric Throwy, where he commands all of those turrets in their AoE or range they have to discharge an electrical force around them, dealing 150% of their attack as AoE. So this is fantastic again to clear out a large amount of mobs on the field. And then on top of this, if you are going against some range mobs and you're a bit scared of getting hit, you can actually activate your ultimate, and your ultimate is Roller Shields, where all of your turrets now emit a force field that blocks all projectiles for 10 seconds. Very powerful, very powerful. And the last thing we need to go over is obviously his passives. His passives are really good, and this is kind of where you'll see his turrets now come into play a little bit more, and why it promotes a defensive style of gameplay, because his racking refresh passive is ace units. So all of the turrets regenerate their durability by 30% each time they kill an enemy, meaning the more kills your turrets get, the longer those turrets are going to stay in that zone. And then on top of this, crew tag. Crew tag passive is whenever you have those ace units deployed, they're going to gain the aura effect now of every skill that you've gained. So this is the opposite to the drones of Icarus. So just remember that. So if you get any aura that says increase nearby, allies by 15%, this is a perfect thing to stack and get a load of, and you can put this on your turrets and make your weapons do some insanely crazy stuff by playing around them. So really, really cool little passive ability. And then the final one that you're able to do is roll call, and this promotes the whole identity of getting these turrets out and playing around them, because when the maximum number of ace units are deployed, all ace units are granted an aura that increases all damage by 25% within 5 meters radius. So anything that does get into their radius and gets too close, they're going to be taking way more damage than normal. So that is Spray About the final hero that we got to take a look at in the game. I hope you guys have understood now all of their kits and you've got a good idea what each of these heroes do. So let's now go into a bit more of the gameplay talk. So when it comes to the gameplay, I'm going to be honest, it was refreshing and surprisingly very, very clean. I personally didn't have any gameplay issues like bugs or frame drops or even animation bugs. I didn't have any of that. It was amazing to see. And even when we got into the multiplayer lobbies, there were some issues where we finished missions and it might disconnect one of us from the lobby and we'd have to reconnect every time. We expected that, right? It's alpha. But apart from that, the gameplay side is very, very clean, as you can see, and you can get some really great moments with all of the characters, because all of them do offer a different play style, which I think is really, really powerful, and it gives you the opportunity, again, as a player, to experiment and try different weapons out, because I was trying out as many different things as I could, and I found rocket launchers that would shoot out 4 rockets at a time, or a rocket launcher that would fire 1 and blow up into a cluster bomb of like snowballs and do some silly damage, right? It was just so fun to play. It was almost playing like a Borderlands style roguelike. I'm gonna be honest, because how unique the weapons had their own character and feel and personality, and I really did enjoy that playing in the Alpha 2. And another thing I want to talk about when it comes into the gameplay side is honestly just the bosses. The bosses were simple, but not too, simple. Does that make sense? Where you could see the boss, you knew, okay, this boss looks beefy, and then you saw it do its charge move, and you knew straight away, okay, this boss is all about rushing at me and trying to attack me and cause like fire to stop areas from going into. So it was very easy to understand very, very quickly without really needing any sort of tutorial on the boss, which I think again is a big W when it comes into the gameplay for Riftstorm. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. This has been my kind of like what I've learned in Alpha so far. It has covered quite a wide range of stuff with the map, obviously the heroes mainly, and some of this gameplay footage that you've been watching while I've been discussing and talking about my opinion obviously on Riftstorm Alpha 2. And in general sense, I'm not gonna lie, it has been one of the best games I've played so far in an alpha, and I have fallen in love with this style of game because I've played games like Hades, Enter the Gungeon, even stuff like Slay the Spire, like if you want to name roguelikes and roguelites, I've played them all, and I just enjoy this one too, and it's just probably going to be one of them that the community enjoys as well, because the multiplayer aspect and the leaderboards and being able to try and climb up and see yourself in like the top 10 is just a great feeling for those guys that want to, speedrun and get those competitive achievements in a game like this. So check it out. This has been Riftstorm. My name's been MrSneakyy, and that is going to be today's video. So with everything said, guys, smash a like, comment, and subscribe for more Riftstorm content. I'm going to be covering it, and I'm going to do way more in-depth videos on each of the heroes, giving you the best guys, the best builds, and some of the best talents you can be running on them, right? So with all of that, and if you download the game, please use my referral code on screen, like I've done with my main man and other content creator covering this game, Shinji42, and we will be rewarded when this game goes live with some extra goodies, as you can see all on screen. My aim is to hit that 100 people, so let's work together as a community to get that goal and unlock the character skin and pet for Riftstorm. So with all of that said, stay safe, guys, stay sneaky, peace out.